Hello, everybody, and welcome to this month's edition of our Vision Island Advocacy Talks. I am delighted that we have a very inspirational guest on with us today. But before I introduce you to him, I'd just like to remind everybody that this session is being recorded. So if you'd like to listen back at any time, you can find it on the Vision Island YouTube channel or through the Vision Island website at www.vi.ie. I'm sure there's going to be so much interesting things we're going to hear from Peter today that you'll all want to be listening to it again. So I'd now like to introduce you, as I say, to our very inspirational guest, Peter Ryan, who I'm sure you've all heard of now at this stage because he is an absolute champion. He undertook a phenomenal challenge to run from Malin to Mizen Head, ending in Mizen Head on World Sight Day to raise funds for the Vision Island Vision van. So I'd really love to say welcome, Peter.
Madeline, thanks a mil for having me. Looking forward to this.
You're very welcome. We're delighted. And I know this is probably a bit of a come down for you now after all your high-flying interviews you've been doing on the Late Late Show. How was that experience?
It was, look, I'm probably a lot more comfortable in these settings, I'll put it that way. It was a really nice evening, don't get me wrong. It's few and far between I'll be doing the late, so I suppose you just have to enjoy these evenings. Found it tough, to be perfectly honest. Like, you know, you're trying to get out a bit of a message as well, and trying to do. I was acutely aware I was kind of representing the service as well, so you're trying to straddle a few things on the go. But no, all in all, look, Mammy was happy, and that's all that matters.
Absolutely. I think you did a phenomenal job. And I can just imagine, though, how kind of stressful it was, you know, before you got on there, before you're going on to this big, such an amazing show to be on. That's a life event that you'll remember. And not to mention, though, you know, as you say, what we're here to talk about today is an amazing challenge that you did to run from Malin Head to Malin to Mizen Head in just 5 days. What on earth gave you the idea for this challenge?
Do you know what? I had the niggle to do this for quite a while. I did a cycling event in 2018 where I cycled all around the country in 5 days, and whether it was the bit of symmetry attached to my small mind, but genuinely I kind of fell in love with the ultra endurance space. But like, truthfully, I almost see doing that kind of stuff somewhat in vain if there's not a nice healthy byproduct coming out of it. And just things aligned between work, between other situations. I said, look, if I don't do it this year, I'm getting married next. That's another year where I won't do it. It's like I'm putting it off. So I knew I needed to say it out loud, but also needed to find the right cause and the right thing. And I knew, like, I inherently knew this had potential if I did it right. I learned a lot from that last one that I did. And I was like, this has potential to kind of talk to people at a national scale. And I suppose that's something that does. No, this is an advocacy talk, but that's something that does matter to me. And I suppose piece of the puzzle, my own little brother got the same condition as me during COVID, so that kind of reinforced Vision Ireland and NCBI, and I suppose I've seen the way they were treating him at the time and just a bit of give back there. But in general, look, I could be having chats every week with a family that got a diagnosis and stuff like that. Like, people try to find people that are going through the same thing in their communities or someone that they half know and that kind of thing. And I did, like, for whatever reason, I suppose lots of people gravitated and had chats with me, and I just thought this event had the potential to talk to people on a wider scale and talk through actions less more so than words. And yeah, I suppose that's a lot of where my disjointed thinking came from.
Well, it's incredible. I mean, as you say, and I think it sort of speaks to people on many different levels, doesn't it? I mean, it's the fact that showing what people with sight loss can achieve. You know, I think that's a huge thing. We're not all going to achieve such amazing heights as you, Peter, but I mean, just to show, you know, what people can accomplish. But as you say, on top of that, about, you know, raising funds for the Vision van and raising awareness about that. And how did you initially hear about the Vision van? I mean.
So it started for me, I was still in the what am I doing this for, trying to find the right project and the right everything. And I got invited down to Campabilities there at Easter time. And as it happened, Aaron was down there, and I really, really enjoyed what was going on down there. And normalizing an awful lot of things and peer support. And like I said, these things might be a sports camp on the surface, but I could kind of see the layers to it and what it was doing and the benefits and this, that and the other. And I was just having the coffee afterwards and talking to Aaron, and I was like, look, I have this harebrained idea that I'm trying to pull off. And straight away, I suppose, latched onto it, and he wanted to have a follow-up chat. And I suppose, when it came to fundraising, I've done fundraising events before, and I don't like to have them for too much of a broad church, if that makes any sense. Like people like to, they want to know where the fiver is going as much as they're never following it up. I think it's an easier thing to package as well if it's for a thing, rather than 17,000 services that the NCBI do on a day-to-day basis, which are all fantastic and they're all everything. But I suppose he spoke to me about the vision van, what it was hoping to achieve, what the remit of it is going to be, and I was like, I think I can really build a narrative around that. And like I say, and the fact that it was kind of the inception of it, I think a bit of me pride wise, I was like, this will be cool to go towards something that, do you know what I mean? It's a concept, it's potentially a new service. And yeah, I kind of bought into it myself, really.
That's amazing, yeah. And as you say, to be at the beginning of something, to be at the inception of a new project, and to be be able to sort of spearhead that in terms of the funds that you've raised. And as far as I know, it's about 113,000 at the moment or something like that. Incredible.
Yeah, it's not so we're around 119 now.
Wow.
At the moment. So we presented a check down in Drumban in my local village last Saturday. So there was donations coming in the night, and I got another check for nearly 5 that night and stuff like that. So it's around 119, I think, at the moment.
Yeah, that's incredible. And as you say, it's going towards the vision van. And do you want to maybe tell us a little bit about the vision van and how that's, as far as you understand, how that's going to work?
Yeah, I think that being the biggest caveat, as far as I understand, which is fairly shallow waters, Madeline, probably. But look, I suppose it is the first of its kind. I've equated it to being a mobile ophthalmology department. The plan is for it to go to 150 towns nationwide next year. If you think one of the first conundrums someone that's visually impaired has is the lack of transport, the lack of mobility, the lack of, do you know what I mean? I know myself, it's I live in Dublin now, but when I go home, even once I get off the train, it's ringing my parents, ringing someone for a lift, all that kind of stuff that hits you straight away again. So I suppose this is bringing a service to the towns, which I look at it the same as the blood donation type scenario. That always creates a good buzz when it comes to town, but this is kind of a give instead, or a get instead of a give. So it's kind of has three fundamentals that they're hoping to achieve, and it's across the life cycle of anyone that's visually impaired. But I suppose the first being eye health, and it's going to take on a number of screening capacity where people, mainstream society, I suppose, that aren't looking after their eyes, or keep on putting off that eye check or going that little niggle that they have. There's going to be a big screening part of the vision van. They're hoping to have some kit in it where they don't want to obviously no one wants to diagnose on the side of the road, but there's a lot of conditions that have early indicators, whether it be glaucoma, diabetic retinopathy, and AMD. And I suppose if they can see those precursors in people early doors, then you can, I suppose, build out a battle plan from there. You can go down the formal road, but at least it's less of that sharp fall off the cliff. If you know something is happening here, you can start looking into it and you can start building out the plan. And then from there, it's if it's me or you who are visually impaired, maybe it's a checkup. But I suppose I equated to me early doors when I didn't know about Vision Ireland, when I didn't know what services, I didn't know how to read a laptop, I didn't know how to use the iPhone, that kind of stuff. So it's going to be, I suppose, a knowledge base as well for people or family members that want to learn more about the services, want to figure out how do I get the free travel, how do I do this, that and the other. So I think it is kind of that 360 of whatever you're going through. And but the big one, I suppose, being eye health and trying to get mainstream society to be a little bit more aware of what's going on and to keep those regular eye checks going, and just, I suppose, forearmed is forewarned, I suppose.
Absolutely. I mean, it's such an important job, isn't it, really? That, because as far as I'm aware, that is it up to something like 70% of eye conditions are preventable if caught early. Get the right treatment. And
even on that, then, our ophthalmology departments nationwide, I think, have the biggest doctor to patient ratio. It's, maybe I'm going out there by saying the biggest in Europe, but it's in the top 5 anyway in Europe of the amount of patients per clinician. So like you could be stuck on a waiting list for a long time. My whole journey went through the public system, everything. So it's like, look, if you can get to the source a bit quicker, then that's no bad thing.
Absolutely. And as you say, then it's also about making people aware of all the various services that, and sorry, apologies, Vision Island. I'm getting used to it myself, in I love your new name. But all the services that Vision Island can provide for people who are going through that journey. And you know, like yourself, you alluded to it there, you know, obviously went on that journey yourself as a teenager, I believe. And, you know, how did you find all the services yourself? Were you able to avail of them easily enough?
I think timing is sometimes the big issue here. Like, whereas I had probably people telling me, go here, go there, do this, do that, and I wasn't ready for it. But I actually think what could be a cool element to the Vision Man as well is almost families need those services as well, whether it's the emotional support, whether it's even if they know there's a plan, how can a guy go to college, how can a guy retrain. Like, I was working in construction, so I had to kind of reorientate my whole life. And you're devoid of role models, and then their in turn family don't know anyone and that stuff. So even if it's just having a connection with a place, having a connection with finding out, okay, there is a guy in Tip, or there is someone in Kilkenny that is going through something similar. And for me, almost the bit of peer support became the first piece of kind of acceptance and getting things going there. But early doors, like putting laptops in front of me, I just, like, ultimately I just wasn't ready to do it. I wanted to see my laptop. I didn't want to have audio. So, but I do think knowing that it's there, you're planting seeds, and when the time is right, the person comes back. And there's a hierarchy of what matters there depending on your level of vision. Like, maybe it's mobility training needs to be the first thing, because if you've lost all your sight or whatever the case may be. But yeah, it's like I say, I think it's just knowing that there's people working for you, and there is an organization there that can help.
Absolutely. No, I think that you're so right there, that it is all about timing. You know, yes, you need to know about services, but you might not be ready for them initially, but that you know that they're there for when you are ready. And I think that is just so important. You know, you've talked a bit about, obviously, you know, the important role of advocacy. And I heard that you were previously a counsellor. And I'm wondering, you know, how do you see that as being part of a kind of advocacy role? And tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, so I'd done a few maybe socially conscious stuff, if I'm to put like corporate terminology on it. I had done a few fundraisers, and I had a bit of a profile locally in Thurles, and I got asked to go for election. And really and truly, when I was painting, like trying to figure out why will I go for this, and what, like, it was that socially like related stuff. And I absolutely loved it. But I don't think, in a weird way, I kind of realized after nearly 3 years, it's like I was doing more of it when I was outside the job than when I was in the job, because it's such a, like, I use the phrase broad church again, but like, when you're in there, you have to represent everyone, and I couldn't say, sorry guys, I just care about the visually impaired or disabilities. Well, obviously that's my passion. But like, your work gets diluted, and then you're not actually doing the stuff that you want to do, because it's the relativity of a problem. Like, the guy that has the pothole outside his house, that's causing him as much angst as the person trying to get the free travel or whatever the case may be, and they're being means tested to date, and it's all a joke and that kind of stuff. So I just found myself getting diluted, getting pulled in different directions, and you're almost trying to be the voice of every cause, when the reality is, like, I was in this weird position where I was trying to keep everyone happy, and I wasn't happy myself, and I wanted to be doing more of the stuff that I want to be doing and feel like you're having a bit of impact. And weirdly, I think I can do it outside the fence even better than inside.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense, because as you say, when you're representing everybody, you can't then just focus on the things that are the most important to you. And so I can absolutely understand that. And where do you see yourself going forward within that sort of advocacy role? I mean, you've just finished this challenge. I don't want to sort of expect you to take on another huge thing like this, but where do you see yourself sitting going forward with that?
Well, that was a big piece of setting the challenge, and kind of reconnecting with the organization, but reconnecting with that passion of, like I said, the run was almost just a vehicle to showcase. You said at the start, like, what people with disability can do. I get not everyone can do that, but like, maybe sport is just the cap that I wear quite well, and I know it's my safe space. If anything, like it's not that I'm saying it's better than the work that someone else is doing. Do you know what I mean? It's more right. This is where I have a voice. It's how I know I can create a bit of impact. But the what I actually don't know, like, but I do know I need to figure out how to do a bit more of it. I need to have a few more discussions and see what the next piece of that is. It's not going to be viable in a lot of ways to say running from Malin to Mizen. Like, I'm not saying I won't do other big sporting challenges, but like, I think you need to add layers to these things, and it can't be just the same thing doesn't create. Not, obviously I'm only messing about Malin to Mizen, but like to just do another endurance event, like it has to have a hook, and it has to kind of, in some ways, it has to capture the imagination of people that are outside of this call, because I think that's where the impact happens. It's when mainstream society see it, and do you know what I mean? It's illuminating it in a different echo chamber, really, and that's what I'm trying to figure out. I don't know what it looks like yet, but I know, like I said, when I left the Paralympics, I realized I was probably getting a lot of this stuff through the Paralympics without realizing it. I was just immersed in this world of disabilities and had a connection and that side of things. And when I left, I realized, like, that's a huge part of who I am and part of my identity, and I need to own it. And I'm far happier when I am owning it. So, yeah, a very long-winded way of saying I don't know. But
you don't know.
But there is something, yeah.
But there's definitely time to work all that out. And I know you mentioned you were at the capabilities, and I'm thinking maybe, that might be something in terms of, you're such an inspiration for us all, but maybe particularly for those young people coming through, who are going to be at different stages of, some of them maybe have born with sight loss, some of them developing it as you have. And sport for them is, like, those camps are just amazing. My own daughter went on those and just found it fantastic. So maybe there's something there. I might put a little seed into your brain there, that you could
100%. No, the energy in that room, the energy in that down there in Limerick, like, it really, like, it just brought me in 2-footed. And the big one, you talk about the kids and obviously, like, everything that goes with that, but it was the one-to-ones I was having with my parents afterwards I really enjoyed as well, because sometimes, like, that can be the limiting factor on the life a kid leads. Like, do you know what I mean? If they don't know, like, do you know what I mean? It's almost like just removing the glass ceiling and kind of like just saying, like, yeah, if they fall, they fall, and they get up, and no different than any other kid. And it's almost like that's kind of the mantra across everything. It's like, don't put limitations on them, and you might be surprised what starts happening.
Yeah, I think that it's so true, because I think when people are in those environments and they are allowed, if you like, almost to do all the things that they want to do in those sort of sporting arena, and then it does then follow through into the everyday life, that actually I can walk to the shops on my own, or I can, walk to school and all this kind of thing, because they've then got the confidence that they can do it. And I think as much as the child, it's about parents too, isn't it? Seeing that their children can do things.
Big time, and I never had appreciation for that till maybe, I was constantly pushing my own parents away, and you don't know this and you don't know that, but like, the reality is, I seen through my niece, actually, she got a hearing difficulty, and I kind of seen through a different lens how hard it must be for them, because that's the nearest thing I had to a child, or have to a child. It's like, look, I'm not belittling it. I get that's not the plan that they had for little Tommy or little whoever, but it really is just a case of, like, if you're going to live that fulfilled life, yeah, there's going to be an element of risk attached, and there's going to be, do you know what I mean? But learning to get as much independence as you can with a disability whilst not alienating yourself, and it's finding that sweet spot, and that's going to be a different place for everyone, but do you know what I mean? But we learn through failure for the most part as human beings, and that's no different no matter what walk of life you're coming from. So
no, that's so true. It's so true. And I just I think the more people like yourself can show what people can do, it's just such an inspiration for everybody, to have that bit of confidence that there are so many things that they can do, in their lives, whether they have sight loss or not. So I just think it's fantastic. And I know, going back to the Malin to Mizen Head a little bit, it was such a huge undertaking, Peter. I mean, 5 days running, 3 marathons a day or whatever, that must have taken a huge toll on you physically and mentally, probably.
Throughout the week itself, I take it, is it, or since?
Well, since both, I guess, both.
It's been all encompassing. I was like, that was a survey, yes to all of the above. But the week itself, obviously, like, Yeah, like when I reflect now, it's probably only in the last 2 weeks I've kind of been well enough to do that. As weird as that sounds, like it took me a good month to recover to any semblance of normality. But like, yeah, to paint that picture, like I think it was 110k was the smallest day, and like nearer to 130 was my largest day of running.
Wow.
I built it out to be 5 days because the record is like a little north of 3.5 days. So I was like, quick little Google. I was like, right, I'm not an Irish ultra runner. I don't come from this background, but it had to be in that sweet spot that I didn't know I could finish it, and I genuinely didn't on the start line. I don't know, can I finish this? I know I set a couple of ground rules around what it would take to pull me out, but shy of that, I just didn't know how I was going to react. So off we went, like we're two characters out of Lord of the Rings or something. Myself and my brother set off in Malin, and yeah, it threw everything at me because the body was just breaking down constantly. After about 90k, essentially, on the first day, yeah, the body just started breaking down, and it didn't want me eating food, and it was kind of like it was really tough. And then you throw in the mental piece there, like whereas the physical was probably while you were running, but because I was running from 6 in the morning to, on average, an average day would be 6 in the morning to maybe 9, half 9 at night.
Wow.
So you're getting in at 9:30 into the hotel. You have to try get some food into you, even though you can't eat. You're absolutely just windfalling. You have to get physio, you have to get an ice bath, and you have to try and get to bed, and you're back up again setting an alarm for 5 a.m. the next morning. So it was like easily 12 before I was getting to bed, but because I was so sore, I actually wasn't sleeping. So I thought I had this great plan of being able to get 4 nights sleep throughout it, but I didn't get hardly any sleep. Like, so it became this one event, this one ultra endurance event. It just felt like one big day, which was probably the most chaotic piece of it, where it just felt relentless. Like I remember on the 3rd morning in Longford, that was actually my worst like time of the whole thing. I was sitting down in the lobby, I was down ready early to go, but didn't know what way I was carried up the stairs that night by the team, and then limping going back down the stairs the next day. I actually didn't know would I have 200 meters in me, and all the thoughts happen when you're not running, really. I was like sitting down, I was like, I actually don't know, can I go back out there? And there was just that constantly, really, for until the 4th night we got into Mill Street, and that was the only time I kind of let the shoulders down from the ears, where I was able to say, kind of in my own head, it's like, I have this bet. Like there was only one day left, and it didn't matter if I had to walk the last day or crawl it or whatever the case may be. I knew when I got to Mill Street, I was like, I'm safe. There's nothing stopping me on the last day. And weirdly, I ran quite well for about 80k out the last day. I genuinely felt good. I was sore, and we were treading a fine line. Like you had blisters, you had my calf was falling off, my quad, hip flexor. Like honestly, the physio for the last 3 days was just patching me up and getting me back out there. And yeah, so there was a lot of reasons you could have pulled out, but thankfully, look, I knew again, and I think if I was just doing it for myself, I would have pulled out. Like ultimately, I knew I was representing more than myself, and that responsibility kind of sat on my shoulders. So yeah, it was extra pressure, but I know kind of what motivates me, and I need that little bit of pressure. And I told too many people. I was on national radio only the week before.
Yeah, exactly. I can imagine that. It's like, oh God, what happens if I don't do it now? It's been this publicity.
I remember my sister talking to me, and she's like, are you definitely going to finish this? I was like, not at all. Like, I don't have a clue. Then why are you doing so many interviews?
I'm just imagining, apart from yourself, I can't imagine how you did it. I really can't. I just don't think I mean, I know I could have done it. I was a sprinter when I was younger, and so anything above 400 meters was too much for me. But apart from yourself, it must have been very hard for the team. I can imagine how difficult it must have been for them to sort of, oh my goodness, this guy's in such a state, how can we expect it to keep going? You know what I mean? To encourage him to keep going
emotionally and physically. Like it really was on the team. And like I said, I had done something like this before, and there was none of the same team did this piece with me, because I like when people gravitate towards the team. and you know, you like firstly, like like normal lad, but I'd struggle to ask, hey Madeline, will you join this team for a week? It really like I wasn't able to do that because like this is my selfish endeavor for all the world, and it's like asking you to take a week off work and all the things that go with that, and just being a little bit self-conscious about it. So I kind of like sat in it for a while. I was telling people I'm doing this, and the team just started emerging. Like, and really, I just knew I needed one medical person, like a physio, and after that, then I could make it up with people once they had driving licenses. And because you knew they signed up for the right reason, that they wanted to be a part of it. And like that, I don't think I could have paid for a better crew. Everyone that was there wanted to be there. And like logistically, like I brought in a project manager after a few months because it started turning into this big beast. And obviously I knew I wanted to raise in around 100,000. So I knew I couldn't do that piece on my own anyway. But if you think like logistically, yeah, I'm visually impaired, out running from top to bottom of the country. I had 3 support vehicles with me. So I had a camper van, the vision van came on the road with us, and I had a car. But like from a traffic point of view, like I had a car driving in front of me at 10 kilometers an hour, and I had the van behind me. And they were trying to keep it super tight so cars couldn't overtake and pull in and basically hit me on the road and stuff like that. So these are people that like drove 600 kilometers at 10 kilometers an hour. I think I've nothing else.
Wow.
Yeah, and like anything I needed, they took all the stress, they took all the pressure, like physio, food, hugs, like everything, you name it. Like that one of the days was torrential rain from beginning to end. Like I had at least 10 sets of kit with me, and they had to go off into Limerick. They were buying new kit so that I wouldn't get friction burns, and that like because as soon as the clothes were wet, I was getting cold. You don't want to be getting sick. You don't want this, that, and the other. They just did everything, like, and didn't have. Yeah. We used the day one as almost like the trial, and honestly, that was our longest day. It was our shortest day running, and it was our longest day door to door because we just tightened up so much from there. Like everyone just learned. No one fought for the whole week. It was whatever it takes to get to the finish line. Everyone just bought into that principle of do what you got to do, and it was team first mentality. And yeah, it was just a super special group of humans.
Wow. Well, it's absolutely incredible, Peter, honestly, and we're so grateful for you to you for doing it, and raising this awareness and raising the money for the vision van, which I think is just going to be this incredible resource going forward, out into the communities, and as you say, doing incredible work. So just huge thanks and appreciation from us all. I'm sure that everyone will agree with that. So you're on to your next adventure. You were saying you're getting married, is it next year?
Yeah.
So that's that's adventure enough for anybody, isn't it? I mean,
it's the biggest endurance event of all, as well. That was only 5 days, Malin, to visit. This is great.
Yes. So hopefully this is going to be a lot longer.
Yeah, but Manny's a question on the long finger. I was saying, we'll deal with that after the run. So now the time has come to deal with those things. So
no more excuses now. No more excuses.
Exactly.
Yes.
So, getting married in July, and like I say, looking forward to it, obviously. But I do genuinely want to figure out what the future holds and how to do a bit of work in this space, and yeah, it'll all come together. We won't panic.
Fantastic. Well, look, the best of luck with that next year, and as I say, thank you so much for joining us today. So look, I'd just like to thank Peter for being with us, and just to remind everybody that the video from this will be up on our YouTube channel under the Vision Ireland YouTube channel, and also on the Vision Ireland website at vi.ie. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us, and maybe you'll be inspired now to go off and do some mad challenge like Peter, and we'll be able to hear all about it from you all then in the future. Take care now. Bye-bye.